Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to speak of something many of us shy away from, something we do not often discuss in polite company, but something that exists within all of us: pain. Pain is a curious thing. It touches each of us in ways that are unique, yet universally understood. We all experience it, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. And often when we are in the midst of a pain, it feels like the world is closing in. It feels as though this weight will never lift, that we are trapped in an endless cycle of suffering. But what if I told you that within this very pain lies a great truth, one that has the power to change everything? You see, pain is not the enemy. It is, in fact, a messenger, a guide leading us to something far deeper than the surface of our experience. When we feel pain, we often resist it. We wish for it to pass quickly, to make it go away. But in doing so, we miss the opportunity it presents. For pain, when faced with openness and courage, holds within it the key to our transformation. Let us begin with the idea of the shadow. We all carry within us parts of ourselves that we do not like to acknowledge, those pieces that we hide even from our own eyes. The things we fear, the mistakes we've made, the desires we suppress. These are our shadows, and pain is the gateway to these hidden aspects of our psyche. It is in the moments when we are most uncomfortable that we are given the opportunity to confront these parts of ourselves. In doing so, we don't merely overcome pain, we integrate it. We bring light to the dark corners of our inner world. The shadow is not inherently evil or destructive. In truth, it holds within it great potential. There is a strength in the parts of us we try to avoid. When we face them, we realize that the pain we feel is not just a burden, but an invitation, a call to become more whole, more complete. It is through the acceptance of our pain that we can unlock hidden aspects of our potential, aspects we never knew existed within us. Now, let us consider the idea of transformation. Throughout history, many of the greatest personal transformations have occurred through moments of intense crisis. The fire of suffering has the power to burn away all that is false, all that holds us back from becoming who we truly are. This is the alchemical process of growth, the breaking down of the old to make way for the new. We may not always understand why we suffer, but in time we come to realize that this suffering is necessary. It forces us to confront our deepest truths, our deepest fears. And it is in this moment of breakdown that we are presented with an opportunity for rebirth. It is in the midst of pain that we often discover who we truly are, beneath the layers of expectation, beneath the roles we have played for others, beneath the masks we have worn for ourselves. The truth hidden in our pain is not simply that we hurt. The truth is that this pain can lead to something profound. It can lead to a new understanding of who we are, what we need, and how we are connected to the world around us. Finally, the most profound truth we can discover in our pain is the path to wholeness. We are often taught to view life in terms of dualities, good and bad, light and dark, success and failure. But when we accept our pain, we transcend these opposites. We realize that we are not just one or the other, we are both. In embracing our pain, we find the wisdom that lies within it. The wisdom of acceptance, the wisdom of integration. The wisdom of knowing that all things, even our suffering, are a part of the greater whole of our being. In that moment, everything changes. Our understanding shifts, and we begin to see pain not as something to escape, but as something to embrace. It is only in embracing pain, in accepting it as part of our journey, that we can step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. So I ask you, the next time you find yourself in pain, do not shy away from it. Do not turn your back on it. Instead, lean into it. Ask yourself, what does this pain have to teach me? What truths lie hidden within this suffering? For in answering these questions, you will unlock the most profound wisdom of all, the wisdom that can change everything. Pain, when we first encounter it, is often something we try to push away, something we try to avoid. It's a visceral experience, one that makes us recoil and wish for escape. We tend to associate pain with something negative or undesirable, a force that disrupts our lives and prevents us from experiencing happiness, comfort, or peace. Yet, in our attempts to avoid it, we overlook one of the most profound lessons pain has to offer. Within our pain, there exists a hidden message, an invitation to encounter parts of ourselves that we have long kept in the shadows. These are the parts of our psyche that we may not wish to see, parts that we may have repressed or denied for much of our lives. But paradoxically, it is precisely by embracing this pain that we can begin to understand the most transformative truth about our inner selves. The concept of the shadow is central to understanding why pain hides such truths. The shadow is not some external force that comes from the outside world to torment us. It is a part of our own psyche, and often it is the aspects of our own selves that we are unwilling or unable to acknowledge. The shadow consists of those feelings, desires, and traits that we deem unacceptable or undesirable, the aspects of our personality that we push down and try to keep hidden from both ourselves and others. It can be anything from suppressed anger, fear, jealousy, and guilt to our unacknowledged potential or talents. These are not necessarily evil traits, but they are often ones that we do not know how to integrate into our conscious self-hum, and so we reject them, burying. Pain serves as the catalyst that forces these shadow elements to the surface. It is through experiencing suffering, whether from external circumstances or from internal turmoil, that we are given the opportunity to confront these repressed parts of ourselves. The feelings of discomfort and unease we experience in pain are often the very feelings we have been trying to suppress. The anger we have pushed down for years, the sadness we refuse to acknowledge, the fears we buried deep within ourselves are all given voice in times of suffering. Pain doesn't just bring discomfort, it brings to light those very emotions and characteristics we have long tried to deny or hide. While our first instinct might be to avoid these painful feelings, the truth is that they are essential to our growth and self-discovery. Pain forces us to confront our shadow. In facing our pain directly, we are forced to reckon with the parts of ourselves that we have long ignored or misunderstood. The pain is not something to be avoided or numbed, for in doing so, we are also avoiding the parts of ourselves that we need to accept in order to become whole. This confrontation is not easy. It requires a level of self-awareness and courage to look at the aspects of ourselves that we would rather not see. It demands honesty with ourselves about the things we have long avoided, the emotions we have kept buried, and the traits that we have labeled as weaknesses or flaws. Yet, when we are able to sit with our pain and allow ourselves to truly feel it, something transformative happens. We begin to see that the shadow is not something to fear. It is not something inherently evil or destructive. The shadow, in fact, holds the key to our greatest personal growth. When we integrate our shadow, we are not simply overcoming pain or forcing it into submission. We are accepting it as a part of ourselves. And in doing so, we are changing the way we relate to the world around us. In confronting the darkness within, we bring light to those parts of ourselves that have been hidden away. This process of integration is not about eliminating the negative aspects of ourselves, but rather about recognizing them and allowing them to become a conscious part of our being. It is through this acceptance that we begin to experience true personal growth. One of the most profound realizations that can arise from this integration is the recognition that pain is not just a source of suffering, but a source of strength. The very emotions and traits that we once considered burdens are in fact deeply connected to our personal power. Anger, for example, is often viewed negatively, but it can be a powerful force for change when channeled properly. The pain of grief can lead to a deeper sense of empathy and compassion. Even fear, when faced directly, can reveal to us the courage that lies within. In other words, the shadow elements of our psyche are not simply negative, they are also potential sources of strength and vitality. It is by confronting them, accepting them, and integrating them that we can unlock the fullness of who we are. The transformation that occurs when we integrate our shadow through pain is not only internal but external as well. Our relationships with others, our work, and even the way we view the world are all influenced by how we engage with our own pain. When we allow ourselves to acknowledge the parts of ourselves that have been hidden away, we become more authentic, more whole. We stop wearing the masks that we have created in an attempt to protect ourselves from pain, and we begin to show up in the world as our true selves. We become more compassionate, not only toward others, but also toward ourselves. We are no longer bound by the fear of facing our inner darkness, and as a result, we become freer to love, to create, to experience life in its fullness. This process of integration is not something that happens overnight. It is not an easy or quick journey. It requires patience, perseverance, and a willingness to look within with compassion and honesty. The shadow, after all, is not easily tamed. It is an ongoing process, a lifelong journey of confronting and embracing the parts of ourselves that we would rather avoid. But the reward for doing this work is profound. It is the transformation from living in fear of our pain to embracing it as an integral part of our human experience. It is the realization that within the depths of our suffering, there is the possibility of growth, healing, and self-discovery. There are moments in life when we experience an overwhelming sense of crisis, times when it feels as though everything is falling apart. These are the moments that shake us to our core, leaving us feeling vulnerable, lost, and uncertain. It's natural in these times to wish for a quick resolution, to want the suffering to end, to escape the discomfort. We long for stability, for things to return to normal. However, what if I told you that within these very moments of crisis, there is the potential for transformation? What if the very breakdowns that seem to bring us to our knees are not just signs of despair, but gateways to something much greater? A rebirth, a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world? Crisis has a unique way of stripping away the layers of pretense we have built up over the years. When we are faced with profound pain or difficulty, the illusion of control we once held so tightly to starts to crumble. The certainty we once had in ourselves, in our lives, in the world, begins to slip away. The person we once thought we were, secure, confident, unshaken, seems to dissolve in the face of overwhelming hardship. But it is in this disintegration that something extraordinary happens. We are given the opportunity to rebuild ourselves, not as the same person we once were, but as someone transformed. This process of transformation is often uncomfortable. It requires us to let go of old ways of thinking, old patterns of behavior, and sometimes even old identities. The crisis is not just about external circumstances changing. It is about an internal shift that occurs when we are forced to confront our deepest fears, our vulnerabilities, and the parts of ourselves that we may have been hiding. We are called to step into the unknown and to relinquish the false sense of control that we once held so tightly. This can be terrifying, but it is also profoundly liberating. In the face of crisis, we are given the opportunity to be reborn, to let go of the limitations we have imposed on ourselves, and to emerge into a new way of being. One of the most important aspects of transformation through crisis is the breakdown of the ego. The ego, in psychological terms, is the part of the self that is concerned with maintaining a certain image, protecting our sense of identity, and preserving our position in the world. It is the voice in our heads that tells us who we are, what we should be doing and how we should behave in order to be accepted and valued by others. The ego thrives on control and certainty. It is concerned with appearances, with status, with success. It tells us that we must appear strong, unshakable, and in control at all times. But when crisis strikes, the ego is confronted with the reality that it cannot control everything, that it cannot protect us from the pain of loss, failure, or vulnerability. The ego's carefully constructed defenses are shattered. And in this shattering, we are forced to reckon with the parts of ourselves that we have long ignored or rejected. At first, this breakdown can feel overwhelming. We may feel as though we are losing ourselves, as though the foundation of who we are is being pulled out from under us. The sense of certainty we once had is gone, and we are left to navigate the world without the familiar structure that we once relied on. However, it is precisely in this moment of disintegration that transformation begins. When the ego is dismantled, we are given the opportunity to reconnect with a deeper, more authentic part of ourselves. The part of us that exists beyond the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we should be. This is the moment when we can start to shed the false identities we have been clinging to and embrace the truth of who we really are. In this process of transformation, pain is not something to be feared or avoided. Pain is the crucible in which the transformation occurs. It is the fire that burns away the old, the worn out, and the limiting beliefs we have held for so long. It is through our suffering that we are able to break free from the constraints of the ego and step into a new reality. This is why crisis can be so powerful. It forces us to confront our limitations, our weaknesses, and our fears. It challenges us to let go of our attachment to outcomes and to surrender to the process of becoming. It is only by surrendering to this process that we can emerge from the crisis stronger, more resilient, and more in touch with our true selves. The idea of transformation through crisis is not a new one. Throughout history, many individuals have undergone profound personal growth as a result of facing hardship. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, a major failure in our careers, a health crisis, or a relationship breakdown, it is often in the aftermath of these experiences that we find a deeper sense of meaning, purpose, and direction. The process of transformation through crisis is an alchemical process, a process of turning suffering into wisdom, pain into strength, and chaos into clarity. This transformation is not always immediate. And it is not always easy. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to sit with the discomfort of the unknown. It requires us to let go of our need for certainty and control and to trust in the process of becoming. The road to transformation is not linear. It is often messy, unpredictable, and filled with setbacks. But as we allow ourselves to be shaped by the crisis, we begin to see that the very things that once seemed like insurmountable obstacles are in fact the stepping stones to our personal growth. In the aftermath of crisis, we may find that our perspective on life has changed. We may begin to see the world in a different light, recognizing that our old ways of thinking and being no longer serve us. We may feel a deep sense of gratitude for the lessons we have learned, even though they came through pain and suffering. We may discover new strengths within ourselves that we never knew existed, strengths that were forged in the fire of our hardship. These strengths may manifest as greater resilience, a deeper sense of compassion, a more authentic sense of self, or a clearer sense of purpose. The key to transformation through crisis lies in our willingness to face the discomfort, to sit with the pain, and to embrace the unknown. It is through this process that we discover who we truly are beyond the limitations of our ego and our past experiences. The crisis does not define us, it refines us. It strips away the parts of ourselves that no longer serve us, and it forces us to grow in ways we never imagined possible. When we talk about the path to wholeness, we are speaking of a process that transcends the conventional understanding of self-improvement. Wholeness is not about becoming something we are not, nor is it about striving to reach a perfect, idealized version of ourselves. Wholeness in its truest form is about accepting all parts of ourselves, even the parts we consider flawed or undesirable. It is about integrating the disparate aspects of our being into a harmonious whole, where the light and the dark, the strengths and the weaknesses, the joys and the pains are all acknowledged and embraced. In this context, pain plays a pivotal role. It serves as a conduit to the unconscious, revealing the deeper truths about who we really are and what we truly need. The unconscious is often seen as a mysterious realm, one that lies beyond the surface of our conscious awareness. It is the repository of all that we have repressed, forgotten, or failed to integrate into our daily lives. Our memories, emotions, desires, fears, and even our untapped potential lie in the depths of the unconscious. Most of the time, we are not fully aware of what resides there. Yet, the unconscious is not some abstract concept or distant part of us. It is deeply connected to our daily lives, influencing our actions, decisions, and relationships in ways we may not fully understand. When we experience pain, whether that is emotional, physical, or spiritual, it is often a signal that something in the unconscious has risen to the surface, begging to be acknowledged. The truth about pain is that it is rarely random. It is not a punishment or a mere misfortune. Pain often arises when we are out of alignment with our true selves, or when we have neglected parts of our being that require attention. It is through pain that the unconscious seeks to communicate with us, to reveal the deeper truths we have long ignored. In this sense, pain is not only a symptom of something wrong, it is a call to action, an invitation to examine our inner world and confront the parts of ourselves we may have avoided. Pain forces us to look inward, to pause and listen to what our inner world is trying to tell us. It breaks down the walls of denial and resistance that we have constructed around our true selves. The discomfort we experience during times of suffering can often be the very thing that propels us towards self-discovery. It is as though pain acts as a mirror, reflecting back to us aspects of ourselves that we have long overlooked. These aspects are often difficult to face because they challenge the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we believe to be true. But in facing them, we uncover the unconscious truths that have been shaping our thoughts, actions, and lives. For example, consider a person who experiences chronic anxiety. On the surface, they may attribute their anxiety to external circumstances, stress at work, relationship difficulties, financial worries. But this external focus often misses the deeper underlying causes. The anxiety may be a reflection of unaddressed emotional wounds, unspoken fears, or unresolved inner conflicts. The person may have repressed certain emotions or parts of their past that are now resurfacing in the form of anxiety. Until these unconscious truths are brought to light and fully acknowledged, the anxiety will continue to have power over the person's life. Pain in this case becomes the doorway to self-awareness, a signal that there is something deeper that needs to be explored and healed. The process of uncovering unconscious truths through pain can be difficult, even excruciating, but it is also incredibly liberating when we finally face the hidden parts of ourselves, the emotions, memories, or beliefs we have long pushed aside. We take the first step toward integration. Integration is not about rejecting the darker or painful aspects of ourselves. It is about bringing them into conscious awareness, understanding their role in our lives, and allowing them to coexist with our more positive attributes. The truth is that we cannot achieve wholeness by focusing only on the good parts of ourselves. True wholeness comes from embracing our complexity, our contradictions, and even our pain. This process of integrating unconscious truths can be seen as a form of healing. The word healing often brings to mind a simple notion of fixing something that is broken or making something better. However, healing in this sense is more about wholeness than perfection. It is about reclaiming the parts of ourselves that we have rejected or forgotten. It is about accepting the full spectrum of our humanity, not just the parts we like or are proud of. And pain plays a key role in this healing process because it forces us to acknowledge and confront the very aspects of ourselves we would rather avoid. When we allow ourselves to feel pain and fully experience it rather than repress it or push it away, we open the door to healing. We stop seeing pain as an enemy and start seeing it as a guide, a teacher that helps us navigate the complex landscape of our inner world. Through this process, we learn to distinguish between the parts of ourselves that are authentic and those that are simply constructed by our ego or external influences. In this way, pain becomes a tool for discerning what is true and what is false, what is real and what is imagined. As we engage with our pain in this way, we begin to develop a deeper sense of empathy and compassion, not only for ourselves, but also for others. When we recognize the unconscious truths within ourselves, we become more understanding of the unconscious struggles that others may be facing. Our own pain becomes a bridge to connection, allowing us to empathize with the suffering of others and offer support in a meaningful way. We no longer see others' pain as something to be avoided or dismissed. We see it as an opportunity to connect on a deeper level, to offer compassion and understanding. The path to wholeness is not a destination but a journey. It is a lifelong process of discovering and integrating the many aspects of our being, the light and the dark, the conscious and the unconscious. Pain is an integral part of this journey. For it is through our suffering that we are able to access the deepest layers of our psyche, uncover the hidden truths that lie there, and begin the process of healing. By embracing pain as a catalyst for self-discovery, we allow ourselves to step into a fuller, more authentic version of ourselves. We learn to live not as fragmented beings, divided between what we accept and what we reject, but as whole, integrated individuals who are at peace with the full range of our human experience. Ultimately, the great truth that lies within our pain is that it is not a force to be feared or avoided, but a force that can lead us to profound transformation. Pain is the key that unlocks the door to the unconscious, revealing the truths we need to face in order to become whole. And in facing these truths, we find a deeper sense of meaning, purpose, and connection, not only with ourselves, but with the world around us. This is the path to wholeness, and it is a path that is illuminated by the truth that resides within our pain.